Peace, black people. We are important. We are worth supporting, man. Welcome to the Elevation Sessions powered by my book, 200 Years from Niggas to God, the guide to becoming a mature nation. Today, we're stepping into chapter 2, the cleanup years. This is the grind season. It's no easy wins, no skipping steps, just the painful, deadly work of rewiring your habits, reshaping your discipline, and rebuilding your life from the ground up. That's why I had to bring my brother Carl on the show today. Carl is Detroit through and through, loud, bold, unapologetic, but also sharp, intentional, and deeply invested in his family and community. He's the kind of brother who will make you laugh, make you think, and make you uncomfortable if you're not living up to your potential. And that's exactly the energy we need for this conversation. So thank you, Carl, for coming on the show, man. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And right on, man. So we're gonna start with looking in the mirror, facing yourself in the mirror. One of my favorite quotes and lines in the book is reprogramming is not about inspiration, it's about the relentless repetition. And Carl, everybody has that moment where the old way of living just doesn't work anymore. And so I wanted to know, what was that breaking point for you?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a breaking point. It was a period in my life because growing up poor, this ain't working, or
Right.
this has to change, or we need to do better. Now, the funny part about this kind of stuff is like I said, it's not necessarily an individual time period. Is when you start growing and you get older, you realize that what you're doing is just not working. Period.
Right.
Right. And when you start wanting more and you start trying to attain more, you realize that, hey, what I'm doing is not getting me where I need to be or where I want to be.
Right. Right. Was there a certain thing that happened? Was there, you talked about a time period. Was there a certain thing that just made that pivot happen and be like, okay, I'm not supposed to go back to doing this anymore?
Well, again, when I talk about that time period, I'm talking about growing up in poverty. So I can remember growing up with Pro Wings, XJ 900s, holes in your shoes, walking to school, going to school with holes in your shoes and socks wet all day, that kind of stuff. So when you realize that, hey, this is not working.
Got it. We ain't going back to that. So that's just, we ain't going back to that point. That was just the point of saying, what, that growing up, we ain't doing that no more. Because what I'm just trying to get at is that, in chapter 1, I talk about taking one thing about yourself, whether it's a good habit that you might want to add to your life or a bad habit that you might want to get rid of, and then, change it. And with through relentless repetition and going into chapter 2. And so I was just trying to figure out if there was something that really just happened. And I believe what you're telling me is that growing up poor just made you know that that's not the way you wanted to live.
That's correct. I mean, if I want to say a specific habit, I would talk about being okay with being honest about whatever you're doing, good or bad, bad or good. Whether you have a lot or you have a little, being okay with this is what I am today.
Yeah, because I remember I was taught that's called being comfort corrupt, just being cool with being comfortable.
Correct.
When we're always looking for more and striving for more. I understand you correctly.
But correct, and you don't have to look at the next person and say, okay, I gotta have this or I gotta have no, I just gotta either move on or just be comfortable with what I do have. And that's okay too.
Yeah. So what was the hardest truth you had to face about yourself before real change could begin? What was something about you that you just had to say, you know what? I know I'm kind of this way. I need to change that so that we can go on and get to this better way of living.
Just no shucking and jiving. At a certain point, you can't talk your way through real success. Once you get into certain environments and everybody around you is good, whether it's you or another father or whatever, everybody got a job. Everybody's doing the best they can. So you shucking and jiving is not going to work. You got to actually put the work in and you got to do what you need to do on a daily basis.
Right. That's right. That's right. I mean, that's what I talk about when I say that relentless repetition is that you got to be okay. You got to do it just over and over and over and over again. I got my boy, 26 years old. He was shooting hoop and he was a hooper growing up. And I was always trying to tell him that, if You really wanted to make it to the NBA. Before you make it to the NBA, you got to make what they do in the NBA easy to you. So that means that you have had to done it so much that by the time you got there, you like, oh man, this ain't nothing. You know, through that relentless, that's what they talk about with that Kobe. He'll just still do those same minor basic footworks over and over and over again till you just became, you know, it just came embedded.
So I would even double down on that. I would say that being in the military was relatively easy because you were doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
Now, every individual job, every goal or objective might be different, but what you have to do on a day-to-day basis is the same.
Right.
And once you learn to take care of the basic stuff, all the big stuff will take care of itself. Or more importantly, you don't have to worry about major disasters happening all the time. And then you got to worry about the things that you didn't do because you didn't take care of the small stuff.
Right. Right. So yeah, man, you know, this that relentless repetition, man. So, you know, I know you from Detroit, man. You know, I know Detroit breeds toughness. But when did you realize, you know, toughness with no discipline was just chaos, was just chaotic and just, you
Well,
know, moving with no purpose?
well, you can see that growing up. That that there's something's missing in what you're doing. But what you're also talking about is having a goal and having a plan about what you're doing. Whatever it is that you're doing, or whatever you're setting yourself to achieve, you can be as tough as if you want. But if you're not disciplined about what you're trying to get done,
Right,
you're gonna have problems.
right, right. Right. So right, you know what I mean? And so that's what, you know what I mean, I'm trying to, you know, also get to is that you know, that discipline of relentless repetition of just going over and over and over again is is really hard. You know what I mean? When you start talking about being a tough guy and being a tough, like if you can do something that, you know, over and over and over again, you know, taking on all the mistakes that come with it, jumping on all the hurdles. I mean, that's, you know, that's hard. You know what I mean? And that's tough, you know. And so, you know, if you can have some discipline with it, and or you don't have any discipline with it, that's what I'm saying. That's just some chaotic situation, and you just really running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Right. So you're talking about like being resilient about how you go about your business on a daily basis. So if you
Yeah.
don't have a structure, if you don't have a way about how you do things, that's where running around with a chicken with your head, like a chicken with your head cut off, comes into play. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, there's only a couple different responses that you're going to get, good or bad.
Right.
But no matter what it is, you got a goal, you got a plan. This is what I'm doing day to day, every day. If you stick to that, everything will work itself in the long run. Because you're just talking about trying to put one good day on top of another.
So you talked about the military. Were you in the military?
Yeah, I was in the Navy.
He was in the Navy. Okay. So, I had a couple other Navy guys on. And so, like you say, that relentless repetition, was there any one discipline that you picked up in your military days that is actually helping you today in your real world life today?
Don't be bored with doing the simple stuff. At the end of the day, it's no different than stopping at the streets, stopping at a stop sign, um, washing the dishes, washing your face, brushing your teeth. Like all those things matter. All those
Right.
small things matter, and they really matter when you don't have access to them. So if you don't have, it will be just as simple as not paying the light bill on time. If you don't pay the light bill on time, then eventually you get that red letter. Then all of a sudden the lights get turned off, and that small bill that was only what $25-$30 turned into 400 because you went to sleep on it.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with just doing what you have to do day in, day out.
That's right. That's right. So we'll get into the part two, which is like, part of, fatherhood and the daily work. And I got another quote from the book that say, the only thing stronger than addiction is discipline. And discipline is built through relentless and reinforcement. And I know as a lawyer, you can't just wing it. Discipline is key in that situation. How did that profession shape the way you manage your own life?
So what I would say is I didn't realize how until I got older the value of preparation. And that's on it. Whether you're raising your kids, whether you're You're talking about managing your household, going to work, like being prepared or trying to be prepared is the game changer. So being in the military, I didn't realize that, whether it was doing unreps or just the training that was necessary on a day-to-day basis, it comes off as boring. It comes off as mundane. There's a lot of things to say about that part of it. But when things got live, that's when you rely on your training. That's when you
Right.
go back to the practice. That's when you go back to, okay, this is how we do things. And then, like you said earlier, those small things that instead of them turning into major fires, they're really easy to get through.
Right. 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 And that's like you said, that's all preparation, being being able to think forward and not just think, okay, and like in chess, thinking a couple moves ahead.
Right.
Right. So I know, we, our children went to school together. We got separated. Wish we were still there. But I know being a father of twins means, the eyes are kind of always on you. What daily habits or disciplines do you hope your boys copy just by watching you, like just by looking at the things that you do on a daily basis? What's some of the things you wish that they could like pick up on?
Well, I hope that they learn to be structured about this. These are just the basic stuff that we're doing every single day. Now, as I've gotten older, I realize that there are just basic things that have to be done every single day. Period.
Correct.
Exception. Even if you're just talking about getting out of the house on time, getting
Correct.
up, brushing your teeth, washing your face, eating breakfast, making sure you got your shoes on, shirt on, making sure your shirts are on, face has lotion, like all those things matter.
Correct. Correct.
They may seem like things that are boring, may seem like things that don't really mean a lot. But when you realize it, obviously you can't go to school with your teeth with bad breath or your teeth ain't work. Or more
Right.
importantly, going back to the night before, getting enough sleep so you are prepared, so you're not sleeping in school.
Right.
Or making sure you're getting enough food to eat. All those small little things matter. One day they're gonna be their own. They're gonna have their own kids, and their own. They're gonna have to pay the light bill and the gas bill and the cable bill, and all those things matter. There's no such thing as okay. It's hard to tell your child you don't have, or the lights get turned off because of some adult details that you didn't take care of.
Correct. That's almost the worst thing to say.
Correct.
You know
So
what I mean?
like one of the I don't it doesn't really matter what they end up doing from an occupation standpoint. If they can pay their bills, pay their lights, their gas, take care of their kids, they win.
100%. 100%. Like I said, I got my boy, man. And unbelievably or not, man, at 26 years old, man, he gave me a call the other day to thank me for making him a thinker and for not just giving him the answer on times when he just wanted the answer to be given to him. Where,
Yeah.
I had to make him go through those disciplines of how did you think about it? What did you say before? What are all the other answers you came up with so that you don't say those again? So you come up with a new answer. And he thanked me for it, and that was a big moment for me because I like you said, man, it's hard to not just cave in and give your child what he really really wants and what they really really are expecting, and to give them what they need so that when they do get older, they're able to make the decisions correctly for their children. Because that was really always my goal with them, is like, dude, you have to figure this out because one day I won't be here. My
Yeah.
father passed away when he was younger. So I was like, look, my dad ain't here to tell me no information on how to raise you. So I have to figure this out on my own. And one day I won't be here and you have to figure it out. So I can't make it easy for you. You know what I mean? You have to be a thinker. You have to come up with some daily routines, some daily rituals, some daily things to figure out how to, maneuver through this world. And, luckily, as of right now, he's like you said, he paying his bills. As I tell people, he don't call me and ask me for toilet paper. You know what I mean?
And that's the win. Period.
Right. That's the win. So, do you think the world underestimates how much structure Black men actually need and how much structure we are actually capable of building? That's actually for Black men and women, because I mean, you know, black we in this together. So I was wondering, do you think the world underestimates that structure?
Of course they do. Without even getting into too much of anything, that's inherent in the culture that we live in. Um, it's not easily publicized where the hardest worker or the person that puts the biggest that does the work, does the most, or works the hardest is the person that's out front as the leader. Unfortunately, this is not like the 60s and the 70s and the 80s where leaders were, generally speaking, the hardest workers or the people who were in the trenches. That's not where leadership is coming from nowadays.
Right.
But at the end of the day, uh, your work ethic, my work ethic, as it relates to who I'm going to follow, I'm not following someone that is not uh, that doesn't have a strong moral compass, that doesn't have a strong work ethic, that's not um, lead me in a direction, or at least helping me walk in the same direction that I want to go in by their own personal habits. Again, without getting into anybody in particular, but again, if you can't take me through a fire if you're not going through it or have some type of qualifications to go through it also, if that
Correct.
makes sense.
Yes, yes. But I was wondering where I was kind of going with it is like, you know, you talked about it early, how, you know, just getting up early in the morning, brushing your teeth, washing your face, you know, doing those things. Um, and so that was the structure that I'm talking about. And I want to do the world underestimate, you know, how much structure us Black families need to be successful, and also the type of structure that we're also capable of building. Because again, like you said, you know, you're building structure with your boys, and you also are creating that structure. You know what I mean? So does the world underestimate how much structure we need and how much we are also capable of giving?
Look at yourself right now. Who are you? More importantly, who do you want to be? Every day you make choices, every day you move, but are you really living or just existing? You were never meant to be stuck. You were never meant to just survive. You were built to build, to lead, to master. Enough. The difference between staying the same and leveling up is one decision. One moment when you say, no more. I refuse to stay here. 200 years from niggas to gods. The transformation starts now.
Of course they do. Even now, as a person that's almost 50, I don't realize that not only can I do it, but it's something that can be built. We can do more on a daily basis. And then this, just that thought of what we're talking about, I can tell you from my own experience, that's not something I was raised with. That that I can get this kind of structure or organization from a guy
Mhm.
or from a Black male. So, or even from family or someone in my family that can show me the right way.
Right.
So, that's what you're talking. This is just a extreme understatement.
Correct. I mean, because I mean, I grew up with both parents in the home, and they were strict, and so you know, I had a structured plan, and I grew up very structured, and so you know, sometimes I still believe though, even though even people are people. You know what I mean? Even when you have that good structure and you can grow up, you know, sometimes you can get, you know, led astray. But I do believe it all comes back to that structure. I mean, we all gonna have some mishaps, and we all gonna have some growing pains. That's just what growing up is about. But I think it is like when that structure is set in, that's the, you know, those are the guidelines. You know, it's already just embedded. And so, you know, it's about again that relentless repetition, that relentless over and over and over thing you got to do all the time. And I think
Correct.
that, that'll help us get, like I'm saying, I'm trying to get us from niggas to gods. And I think that, that structure is just really one piece of it. If we can all, kind of follow that rule again, something simple as wake up in the morning. So time you got to wake up in the morning. So if there's a time you got to wake up, there's a time you got to go to bed, there's a time we need to be out the house so that we can then get you to school and get you educated.
Correct.
Right. So we get into the third part here, which is, transformation in real time. And, I got my other quote in the book is that says, we will not just survive, we will thrive. We will not just hope, we will execute. We will not just speak change, we will become it. So, and talking to you and hanging out with you, your presence is almost impossible to ignore. So how do you turn that volume into vision using your voice to build instead of just be heard?
Well, again, no matter who you're around, you can be loud, but at the end of the day, when people are going to pull back layers and find out who you are. And when I say pull back layers, they're going to find out, are you doing the little things that you say you are? Correct. So at the end of the day, people are going to ask, okay, well, talk to me about how his kids are doing. Talk to me about how he's living. Is he doing the things that he's saying? So a part of just what we're talking about is just being the person that you say you are every single day. So, whether you say something to me or not, over, you and I were together 3 years. You over a 3-4 year period or 2-3 year period, I got a chance to find out who you are, but over a period of time, you can't fake it.
Correct.
At the end of the day, is this who he is every single day? And then more importantly, let me see how your kids are, because that tells me who you really are.
Correct. You know what I mean? So what's one discipline you picked up or one weakness you cut loose that shifted your whole life for the better? What's something that you were able to pick up or cut loose to say, you know what, boom, we shifting our life to a whole better place?
Well, at the end of the day, I would say the number one thing I'm aware of every single day is that it's on me. It's if I want something, I gotta go get it. I gotta get up and go to work and put the effort in to get it done. I can't look to my left. I can't look to my right. If something is missing, it's up to me to go get it. Period. There's no grace period. There's no ifs. There's no ands, and there's no excuses for that.
Right. I mean, when you're the head of the household, like I said, you have to figure it out. You have to be the one to figure it out, go get it, make it happen. It ain't no asking, ain't no begging. It's just going to do it. You know what I mean?
Correct. At the end of the day, there's nobody's going to give you anything. Period.
You shouldn't be looking for that. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be looking for somebody to give you something.
Correct.
So, if a young brother in Detroit told you discipline was boring, what's the loudest, most honest message you are hitting with today?
I tell him his world is too small.
His world.
Whatever world he's in is too small.
What do you mean by that?
There's nothing wrong with you don't have to live in a city. You don't have to have this large, grandiose lifestyle or anything like that. If you want to live in a small town and just pay your bills and live your life, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you think you're going to do it without discipline, you have no clue how wrong you're going to be, because it takes discipline to go get a light bill turned on, to go get cable turned on, and then pay those bills every single month. It takes discipline to go get a mortgage, or even to go get a rent, pay rent, and then you got to pay those bills every single month. PG&E's cutting you off. Period. Now they cut us off. It was wrong or whatever, but if you ain't paying the bill, they cutting you off. That's it.
100%.
So again, if you believe that you're gonna go through life without discipline, your world is way too small. Or you're not realizing that whatever you got going on right now, where there's no discipline, don't worry, it'll change. Because that's right. All situations change. You're not the way you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. You're going to be different 2 years from now. And you know what? You gotta change with it. If you think you're not gonna change, or if you think you're not gonna go through life with discipline, well, you're setting yourself up for failure.
100%. So, you know what I mean, right on for coming on the show. We're going to close it out. My last question is here, you know what I mean? I put the book out, you know what I mean, the 200 Years from God. And I just like to know, man, what's your true opinion of the book, man? How did your brother do on writing this book here, man?
That's funny. I guess I'll tell our story.
Okay.
How you and I never really talked.
Uh-huh.
Until I read your book.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
I do.
You know, Cameron, Cameron and Miles, those are my sons. Zendaya, that's your daughter, and they had been in school together 2 and 3 years, and we
preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade.
But we pleasant, but we never really talked.
Right.
Hey, man, I got this book, and I'm a Detroiter, so I grew up relatively militant, relatively in a segregated environment. You know, I'm down for the cause 1,000,000%.
100%.
I'm not necessarily, I'm not gonna lead the march no more, because
Right.
that's not the role I feel like I should play. But
Right.
I'm down for the team 100%. So for me to read the book, I don't know if you remember the first day I told you, like, hey, that's how I live.
Right.
So like that whole being overly disciplined with the kids, like having a plan, putting that plan into place, getting these kids out here reading, getting them well rounded, all those things are phenomenal. But
that's right.
when you get in the real world, nobody's really talking about those things. Or in a structured, work environment, school, even we're at an African school, and those conversations don't really come up.
Right.
Ain't nobody telling you, hey, get off your ass, do this, blah, blah. No one's saying anything. At the end of the day, we're still having these same vanilla conversations every single day where, it's just going about the business of living. But when I like I told you, when I read your book, like, yeah, I'm with you 100%. So I appreciate, like you said, the last time we talked, we didn't get too far away where we couldn't do this, even though we should have did this a year ago.
That's right. I always felt your presence. We talked, briefly times here. We went to each other's kids' birthday parties and whatnot. So we had a few conversations, and from that, I always felt like you was a brother who was definitely knowledgeable. I didn't know you were military, but I did feel the militant vibes. I felt that was more pro-black, which is all good too. That's why I was comfortable shooting my book to you, because I thought you would appreciate it.
Yeah, like I'm totally about the call. But as we get older, we start having stuff in life, or even just being more direct. As you get more money and be more successful, you probably do move away from being on one side of the fence either way, and you learn to kind of be more middle ground, in the middle,
right,
and not necessarily pro anything.
Right. But that's funny as you mentioned that. I was having a conversation with my homie the other day, and it's about time that we stop worrying about his story and start really making our story and start creating new stories so that we can tell our children and write, new stories. And again, do away with his story. His story is good to know, but where has it got me? Where has his story got me? So why am I so worried about his story when our story is what it really is?
What you and I are really talking about, building these kids up to be whatever they're gonna be. What I'm saying you is that it's not about me individually. It's about building these kids up to get them where they need to be. So
correct.
Not necessarily being pro-black. It's not that I'm against the grain. It's just okay. It's not about me to do anything to slow down what I'm doing and making sure that the boys have what they need so they can go and do whatever they're gonna do in life.
I mean, ultimately, it's all about making this planet, good for the people behind us, which is our children. Or if you don't have any children, it's the generation behind us, because this planet ain't going nowhere anytime soon. Anytime soon. So, again, like you say, it's about creating children that are citizens. You know what I mean? Respectful adults that take care of business out here. But you know, it's also about our community as a whole. And that's what, you know, for me, that I'm looking for mostly is that our community at least gets the fair shake that everybody else does. I'm not trying to take anybody off the shelves. I just want to put our product up there with the rest of them so that when we go into the store, everybody has the choice and we up there and you can make your choice to get ours or not. You know what I mean? But to me right now, once we get to that God level, that's where we'll start, you know, evoking that.
I'm with you 100%.
Right on, man. So, Carl, man, salute to you, man, and thanks for coming on the show and for proving that discipline isn't about being quiet. It's about being consistent, for showing that loud voice means nothing without a cleaned up life behind it, and for reminding us that transformation is not theory, it's daily execution. To everyone listening, chapter 2 of 200 Years from Niggas to God is about the cleanup. It's no more excuses. It's no more shortcuts. It's just the work. The painful, consistent daily work. And so if you felt this message, don't just leave it here. Tap into the collector's edition and get the ebook, the audiobook, the original song done by me, and that fabulous artwork. This is not just content, it's the blueprint for us to keep on moving. So peace, Black people. We are important. We are worth supporting. Thank you, Carl, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Nigga, we ain't gotta be nice. Nigga, we ain't gotta sell drugs. Nigga, we really rock right, nigga. Nigga, we truly godlike, nigga. Nigga, we been building space stations. Nigga, we are the United Nations. Nigga, the globe is too small, nigga. Niggas will always run y'all, nigga.